Welcome to Science with Miss Goldsworthy. I'm Miss Goldsworthy, and today we're going to go over variables. When you're starting an experiment, you want to make sure that you're identifying the independent, dependent, and control variables before you really get into the details and actually doing the experiment. So that is what this video is going to go over. Our first term is independent variable. And you'll see that independent variable will come up as pink throughout these videos and this unit. So independent variable, this is the thing that I'm going to be changing on purpose in an experiment. And I have two experiments that I'm going to be talking about today. So again, the independent variable is the thing I'm changing on purpose. So my experiment 1 is discussing what type of scrunchie or hair tie, whatever you want to call this, holds my hair up better after doing 10 jumping jacks. So the thing I'm changing on purpose is the type of scrunchie. Is it going to be the thin scrunchie or the bigger scrunchie? That's the thing I'm trying to figure out. In my second experiment, I'm trying to see, does the amount of sun a cup of ice gets, does it have an effect on how fast the ice melts? So I have 2 cups. 1 cup I would put in the shade, 1 cup I put in full sun. And then I'm going to time to see how long it takes for it to melt. So my independent variable is going to be the sun. Okay. Our next term is dependent variable. So a dependent variable is the thing that is dependent on the independent variable. So it's going to come after the independent if it's a question or a hypothesis. So I will go through this in both cases. So in terms of the scrunchie, I'm going to say holds my hair up better. So the question was, which type of scrunchie holds my hair up better? The holds it up better, that's the dependent. So I'm going to try and measure it with observations or collect data. And in the ice and the sun experiments, how fast it melts is my dependent variable. So I'm going to be collecting that in terms of minutes or seconds, however I choose. And I'm going to say, okay, how long does it take for all the ice cubes to completely melt? So I'm going to be using observations along with data to collect that dependent variable piece. In every experiment, you want to only have one independent variable because you don't want to have a lot of different factors that are influencing your results, and then you end up really having no idea what made an effect. But there is something called control variable or control variables, and these are things that you keep the same in an experiment to ensure that you don't have other factors that are influencing or affecting your results in the end. In control variables, you're going to have more than one. Control variables, you want to make sure that you're listing all things that you can think of to try and keep the same to reduce any influences or other factors affecting results. So really for science experiments, I'm trying to get you to list at least 4 to 5 control variables, but really you're trying to think of as many things as possible to make sure that that experiment is closed off to other factors other than your independent variable. So I'm going to go over the 2 different experiments and some control variables that we could have in each of those scenarios. Control variables for this experiment would be same cup, same amount of ice, putting it out at the same time, even though they're in different amounts of sun. I'm sure there's other things, but those are just some variables that you want to keep the same to decrease other factors influencing results. Making sure you're doing the jumping jacks the same time of day, making sure you have the same amount of twists, and the scrunchies are in the same place on your head are all control variables for this experiment. Now that we've gone over those control variables for those experiments, I want you to fill out the rest of the worksheets to complete your summary of the video and also come up with at least one question that you have that is content specific. So please do not ask me questions like, where did you get that scrunchie from? Or how did you freeze the ice? What kind of water did you use? Those are all just somewhat related, but like not really part of the content. I want you to ask a question that you either truly have about the content if I didn't cover it, or if you have a quiz question, like what could I ask you on a check for understanding or a quiz as well. And one thing I didn't note is that green dependent is always going to be green, and controls will also be brown in these experiments. So again, fill out the rest of the worksheet, and I hope it was clear, but having good questions is a starting point for our conversations moving forward.